Welcome to How We Grow, an essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz, with your host, Lynell Gordon. Welcome to How We Grow, the Vacation Rental Show. I'm Lynell Gordon, your host, and I want to introduce you to a very special guest we have today, Mike Harrington. Hi, Mike. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
And Mike, gosh, his resume is like tremendously long, guys. So if you're in vacation rentals, you know who Mike Harrington is. Mike is the former president of the Vacation Rental Managers Association. So Mike is the founder and the CEO of Carolina Retreats. It was recently acquired by V-Trips. He also owns the Tranquil House Inn and the Beach House Motel and bunches of things that he does. Mike, when I first met you, let's go back before resort. You were down on Hatteras?
That's right. So, I was not one of the lucky ones that started up in the industry and, owned a property and said, I'm just going to start with one and this and that. You hear that story all the time. I came in it as a worker bee, right? So I worked for Stuart Couch at Hatteras Realty and Stuart Pack, who was their VP, and Amy Helly,
which I love. I love them all.
Who's fantastic. They hired me for my first gig in the vacation rental industry, and that was it.
So when I met you, you were actually managing. You were GM for a very large company, and you've always had ambition, though. Didn't you always want your own something?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if I had that direct line of sight when I was doing this. I was young. I was really young. I was 25 when I was hired by the Rossi family, who owned Resort Realty on the Outer Banks. And, they were looking for someone to kind of come in and help on the business side and some accounting and some things like that. And, they happened upon me and a resume, and we hit it off, and they, offered me a position. So I took it. And that was in the big city of Nags Head, because I was living in Avon on Hatteras Island, which, pretty much shut it down in the wintertime. And I was engaged to be married. My wife, or girlfriend at the time, wife now, Holly, she was like, probably would be good to get back up there if we're going to actually start a life. So I said, okay, let's do it. And went up there, and Resort Realty at the time was, it was a pretty decent company, sort of a wallflower, what I would always say. You knew they were there, but you never heard anything about them. They've been there for quite a while, and they kind of wanted to grow and rebrand and build out a vacation rental program that competed with the big boys. And I had no idea what I was doing. Pretty much. I mean, I went in there, and I kind of took bits and pieces of a lot of the smart guys in the room, from the Stuart Couches and, the Steve Trovers and these guys that were in BRMA, and, started kind of piecing together a program to help, build it and grow and be competitive. And, it worked. So we did that. I was there for approximately 8 years. So 8 years working for those guys. And the start or buy your own business really didn't come into my purview until kind of at the end, when in fact I was approached by Ben Edwards, and he called me up one day. He said, "Hey, I got something on Topsail Island." He's like, "Do you know where that is?" I'm like, "Of course I know where that is." My wife her sister had a beach house on Topsail Island for years, so we would go down there and see them once a year and come back. So I said, "Yeah, I know where that is." He said, "Well, let me send you something and take a look at it." I said, "Okay, fine, whatever. I'm busy. I'll look at it." And at the time, I was looking at it for
Ben.
Resort Realty.
Yeah.
So, to think we might, okay, well, maybe we could buy a company in another market and grow that brand. And, I would help in that end. And so I took it to the guys at Resort, and, they were looking at it. They're like, "Well, yes, it's nice. We're not really super interested. It's kind of
far
4
away.
hours away. I was like, all right, that's no problem. And then kind of a light bulb kind of went off, and I was looking at it going, this isn't that big of a business. I said, just kind of thinking to myself, like, well, what if I was able to do something? And I felt a little guilty because, I was working for a company. I had a great job. I loved it. Loved everybody there. I was like, man, I don't know if that's the right thing to do. And kind of let it sit on the shelf for a little while. And then came back to it. And, really the rest was history. There's a lot more to that story of how it actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what made you decide you were like, hey, I think I'd like to do this? That's brave. I mean, you have a wife, you have a family, and you're like, let's just take a chance.
I'll be honest with you. Probably the thing that really triggered me the most was the location. Near Wilmington, Topsail Island, all of Holly's family lived in the area. My family was closer at the time. And I was like, man, that's really like our dream was like, oh, love to live in Wilmington area one day. We always kind of grew up going there. And really that location was the driving force for me to say, yeah, that's the opportunity. I can live where I want to live. I can do something that I know how to do. Maybe it'll succeed. I don't know. If it doesn't, I'll go get a job. I don't, somewhere else. But that was sort of the driving force. And it certainly was a risk because, I had a great opportunity where I was at, and we were growing and we were doing a lot.
Oh yeah, no kidding. That's for certain.
So, one of those stories where, sometimes you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. and that was, I had 3 kids. I just had my third at Emory, and that was very uncomfortable for us as a family because we were, walking into something with little children and, had to sell our house. We had to do all these kind of things to make it work. And I guess the rest is history. So,
well, Topsail is a beautiful place, and Wilmington is a beautiful place to raise children. So, I mean, I grew up not far from there myself. It's a really nice place. So I think that's something that's just fascinating to me is how you decided you have a lot of experience when you're the GM of a property management company and you're responsible for all the areas that happen. How hard is it to go from GM to owner? Was it really a natural thing? Was it easy to go from one to the other, or was it something you went, oh gosh, this is difficult?
It wasn't that natural, to be honest with you. I mean, luckily I had a lot of experience working with the family that owned Resort Realty. So, I saw a lot of the business side of it, saw some of the financing side of it, saw some of this, but, once you get into that role, I started looking at my bank account more than I've looked at anything else because I'm
sure.
like,
absolutely.
If I don't have the cash, I don't have the business. And, it took me a while to kind of decouple that part of it and, the business and like growing the business and doing some things. I had the luxury at Resort Realty because the family was, very wealthy and we were able to do some really cool things. So sort of, raising money or financing for projects was never a problem. When it's 100% on you, that's a completely different story, right? So now I kind of agonized over every hire. I had to agonize over every, piece of equipment, buying a van, right? It's like, oh man, what do I do? And it can be difficult to really wrap your head around that and get over that and say, okay, I know my numbers. I know what I'm doing. If I buy this, it's going to return this. And, getting in that frame of mind took me quite a while to do. So, yeah, I don't think it was very, very natural from just GM to owner, because as owner, then you're worrying about a whole multitude of other things, taxes, blah, 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 blah. So, but, again, I was fortunate to kind of go into a running business, but then I had debt, right? I had to pay back debt because we borrowed money to buy the business. And so I had a lot of motivating factors to make sure I succeeded.
How exciting, though. I mean, it's just, you think about it, the fact of the matter is there are always opportunities that were offered in life, but the ability to be able to go from working a business to owning a business and then selling the business. Now that's remarkable. You have been wildly successful in what you've done. I know you, so I know that you're incredibly dedicated to whatever you put your mind to. And you're very loyal. You're really loyal to your people. So tell me about the business that you built. When you built that business, what are the most important things that people should think about when they start their business? Is it culture? Is it delegation? What are the keys to success for a beginning a business?
People ask me this question a lot. They're like, and everybody likes to get in the minutia. They're like, what software, what this, like, look, who cares about any of that? The number one thing about starting and building a business is getting business, right? So like, you could have the best software, the best website, the best, processes and procedures, but if you don't have anything to rent, you don't have a business. And, I know that's easy to say, but if you look at some of these folks that have been very, very successful in this industry, they've done so over decades, not like from 2020 to 2022, right? It's been right. It's a compounding thing, but they all started out the same. They're like, oh, well, Mr. Jones, my neighbor, or I sold him a piece of property. He needed somebody to hand out keys, and that's what I did. And I just started going from there. And then they worried about all the other stuff later. And, I think, Steve Milo's the same way. He's like, I didn't have software until I had 20 something properties, so you got to, at some point, you're not going to be a successful business person if you don't know how to sell yourself, sell your services, and just kind of make things happen. I mean, and then you can start, really dialing in everything else after that. So would be my biggest thing to tell people.
Get homeowners, get properties.
Yeah. And you're seeing it now. Like, I have this kind of ongoing thing in the back of my mind, especially with Airbnb, you're seeing a lot of these young real estate folks who are becoming, co-hosts or Airbnb managers. These folks know how to get business, right? They know
they're salespeople, absolutely.
Yeah, they're relationship driven, they're salespeople, and they figure it out on the back end. And they're going to have such a head start over people that are just in the weeds trying to get every single thing right before they launch, that they're not going to be able to catch up. So, I would say there's a lot of people already kind of running down the highway and getting business and building this new version or new generation of vacation rental management companies that we probably need to take notice of.
So would you say when it comes to starting your own business and being you, especially having a family and things that are so many responsibilities on your back, would you say that everybody's going to be scared? You're going to be scared. You just have to work scared.
Yeah. I mean, when we bought Topsail Realty, we took on a lot of debt that we could not pay back unless the business
was successful.
Yeah, it was successful and hit the numbers that we said it was going to hit. So there was no backstop. I have to give a shout out, Town Bank of out of Virginia.
Good people.
Great people. They're very knowledgeable about the vacation rental industry, the property management, and specifically the Outer Banks. And I went to them, and of course they dissected it up and down. That's what bankers do.
They're smart guys.
But they gave me a shot and said, okay, this is all we're willing to do, right? We'll give you X dollars. You have a little bit of money to put in, and there was a gap. There was an equity gap. They were like, but you got to go find the rest of the money. And I was like, oh my God, So that was a whole nother story in itself. So I was able to, we had to go. I had to go find additional equity to put in to buy Topsail Realty, and it's another story, but was able to do that with a great investment partner who I've he's since cashed out a while ago, and he's been a great mentor as well, and we ended up having a good ride, and I ended up buying him out in 2018 and kind of went from there. But that's a tough road to hoe when you're having to deal with all that and try to plan to run the business itself.
No kidding. And you pulled in people that you'd worked with previously that were really smart people. I mean, you got some really smart people to come work with you.
Yeah, if I don't know how to do anything else, I know how to fool people to come work with me. I think that's it. I think, and look, that's another agonizing decision. Because when it's just you, you're going, the best time to bring people like that on board is when you can't afford them, right? Because then it's like, they're going to propel the business, much faster, but that's a leap of faith that you have to take.
Absolutely.
So that's what happened with Stuart Pack, we've worked together for 3 different companies, from Hatteras Realty to Resort Realty and now Carolina Retreats. And he's fantastic. I mean, kind of convinced him again. I said, look, this is the opportunity. This is the market. This is where we want to be. And he took a leap of faith. I took a leap of faith. And it was probably the best thing we've ever done as a business. And
Stuart Pack is brilliant. He's a brilliant negotiator.
Yeah.
He really is a very smart person. So you have some smart people there. Built by property managers for property managers. Streamline is a powerful software that gives managers enterprise-level capabilities to drive more revenue and improve operational efficiency. Migrating to Streamline allows property managers to gain functionality while reducing the need for multiple vendors, improving flow by logging into a single system and reducing redundant technology costs. With Streamline, property managers achieve revenue lifts by leveraging our fully fledged communication center, reservations quoting system, revenue management tools, homeowner acquisition CRM, and powerful direct OTA connections. Streamline also has industry-leading trust accounting and report capabilities to give you clarity in an overall company performance. Learn more about Streamline Vacation Rental Software at streamlinevrs.com. So I want you to do me a favor. So everyone that comes on the show, I ask to tell a couple of stories. I ask for them to tell me a story about an owner and then a story about a guest. And I mean, we have wild stories, not just because we deal with the public in vacation rentals, but because it's their vacation. It's kind of a unique time. A guest comes in and they expect to relax and have exactly what they see in the pictures, or even better. They hope it's better. Don't you? I mean, when I do that too, I hope it's better than the pictures, or at least the pictures. And for our owners, that is a fine line to walk in dealing with owners. So tell me your favorite stories.
Let's see, positive or negative?
It doesn't matter, I like the positive stories. Actually, I like the funny stories. I have some really funny stories from my family's vacation rental business. They're just hilarious. But whichever you think.
Yeah, most of them are not hilarious at the time, because that's what always stands out. I've been doing this so long. I mean, there's just so much that's kind of, at some point you gotta get some thick skin and let it kind of bounce off of you a little bit. But I think if I had to pinpoint anything that kind of jumps out at me, it's probably last year. Had a gentleman who's a guest, somehow got my cell phone number, and try not to give that out for obvious reasons.
I was just thinking, how did that happen?
He was disappointed in the home that they stayed in. He called me incessantly. I didn't know who it was, right? So I didn't answer him. I don't know, just leave a message. I'll call you back if it's important. And then he started texting me I was at my son's football practice. He was 9 at the time, and I was just trying to decompress for an hour, right? So finally, I got frustrated, and I just picked the phone up and I called the guy. I said, "Look, can I help you? What's the problem?" So we went into the house and the pictures online, and then he made a comment. He said, "In the pictures, there's this nice little sailboat in front that had flowers in it."
Oh my gosh.
We got there and there was no flowers in that sailboat when we got there. And I said, "Jesus Christ, look, I'm a pretty reasonable person." I said, "But, if you want me to bring flowers and put in that flower pot, I will be happy to do so." And he started laughing. I started laughing. I mean, there's some various other little issues there, but ultimately I think, in those situations, the best thing to do is just deal with it immediately, right? Like, I called the guy at 8:30 at night after football practice for my son. I said, "Look, I'm not going to wait in the morning. I'm going to fester. He's going to fester. I'm going to call him right now." And did that, that was it. So, that was probably jumped out at me more so than other. I'm sure I got many others over the years, but, I feel like, just dealing with it and ripping that Band-Aid off is the best thing to do.
If you want flowers, we'll bring you flowers for the flower
Absolutely.
pot. It's so funny. Tell me about your favorite owner. Why are they your favorite owner?
It's not fair because all owners are a little bit different. Everybody's got their different objectives. Everybody's got their own perception of what a management company should do for them.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I feel like, it's sometimes counterintuitive, but the owners that get it the most or understand the most are the ones that own probably multiple properties, right? They're more so investors. They still use their homes and stuff like that, but like they get it. And, you have to tell folks, and we try to do our best, but it's like, look, when you're entering into this vacation rental business, is you got to check your emotions at the door. Like you just got to do it. And it's very hard for people because, it's their house, right? And then, those disrespectful guests, they're not taking their shoes off when they come in the house, and I'm like, this is not your grandmother's home, maybe it is, but, you guys have got to check your emotions at the door a little bit. And, over the years, we got to a pretty good system of kind of sniffing that out before we accepted a new home. And that's the luxury about these smaller branded companies like Carolina Retreats and like some of the other locally owned companies. It's like, we don't have to work with everybody. Like it's, either it's a fit or it's not. And, the folks that kind of understand that and they get it and they're saying, okay, we get it. There's an acceptable amount of wear and tear, but our management company is going to make sure that's checked. If there's anything crazy, we want communication, but we don't want to be over communicated with either. We use the tools that they've invested in that we can monitor the revenue, we can monitor work orders, we can do these kind of things, and those folks are very easy to work with. And, probably a little secret is like too, when they call, they probably get a little bit more attention because it's like, oh, hey, you calling, haven't heard from you in a month, but
they're not texting you every day asking
you're not calling me.
Did you get that rental?
Yeah, about something. And that's just human nature, right? That's human nature. There's nothing I can do about it. It's nothing to do with customer service. You're dealing with real humans in these offices. And when you call up there daily or weekly and berate people, they don't want to talk to you. Like that's the hard pill to swallow, right? And I wish I could have a class on new homeowners coming into the industry and kind of lay all this out. But
I know there are a lot of people that would be interested in how to deal with homeowners. Do you have homeowners that bring you candy, cookies, those kind of things?
Oh, yeah. They're awesome. Yeah, they're great.
Do you have any that are now friends that were business before and now they're friends and you actually like to hang out?
I mean, I don't have a whole lot of friends.
No, it's not that. It's not that you don't. You have a lot of friends. You don't have a lot of time. You have a family that's growing very quickly and an amazing family there. So
it's hard, but we do have. There's some great folks that are we've worked with over the years and very appreciative and we get the Christmas cards, we get all that kind of stuff.
Have you fired an owner this year? Did you fire an owner last year? Do you fire your owners?
I don't like to say fire owners.
Oh, okay.
I think that's I don't like that terminology. I just feel like it's more like hey, we're not gonna we're just gonna part ways, right? There's no need to be emotional about it. It's not a fit, right? So we're not going to invite you back in the program or whatever it is, but and that's sometimes that's tough for a homeowner too. They don't like hearing no.
No,
and,
of course.
I always told our management team too. I said, look, the most powerful thing you can tell someone is no, right? Because then it's like, well, what do you mean? The customer's always right. Well, no, they're not. They're not always right. And if it's something that's just blatant and you can tell they're just trying to get around something or trying to get over on you, then call them out. Now, if it's something we did and we made a mistake, we will 110% own up to it and we will correct it, right? That happens a lot. But, we've had people try to take advantage, and then we've called them. I've called homeowners creating fake receipts for damage to try to be reimbursed for stuff. And we're like,
Oh my
no,
gosh.
no, thank you. We had a homeowner say that we left his windows up during a storm, and he was trying to come after us. And I said, well, let me tell you something. I personally went in your home and closed and locked every single door and window. So that's not going to fly either.
That doesn't fly.
So,
oh my gosh. Wow.
So it's, and that's very few and far between. I don't want to scare people, but sometimes there are people that try to take advantage,
So if you were so there are going to be a lot of people listening who are in vacation rentals who maybe want to sell at some point. You've already given some really good advice, in my opinion. Sell when you don't have to is a really great piece of advice, I think. What kind of hope can you give to them to say, hey, this is, you can be hopeful because X, Y, Z?
Yeah, I would say, and you hear this from, Ben and Jacoby and all the folks that are kind of in that M&A world, but build a business like you're going to sell it, even if you never sell it, right? And you don't have to sell your business. Like, don't think that's the ultimate goal. I mean, I know a lot of people, families that have owned these businesses for 40 or 50 years.
Right.
Sloan Realty down in Ocean Isle. I mean, great generational family. Your family's business, great generational family business. So don't feel like you have to sell it. In my case, just to be frank, I mean, I kind of my attention started gravitating towards another opportunity, and the only way I could capitalize on that opportunity was to have some capital. And the only way to raise that capital was to sell one of my assets, which, the biggest one I had was the business. And, that was a decision that I had to make. I feel like it was the right decision for my family and for us, but it might not be the right decision for your family. So, just something to keep in mind, but, certainly helps you to keep tight books and records, right?
Sure.
That's just a good business practice. I mean, spend the money on a good accountant, spend the money on a good CPA, hire that extra bookkeeper, just do it. And it will make your life so much easier. Even if you have to go get a loan for something, I mean, having that at your disposal and not having to recreate it all,
that's so true.
Saves so much time and energy.
That's so true. Yeah. I think that although there's a lot of skill that goes into running a business, and I know you're very skilled at it. You're one of the best business operators I've ever seen. I mean, seriously, the way that you run your company, even when you did resort, I was just like, wow. I looked at the way that you put your departments together, and it was very, very good business. And I think that the advice that you just gave, as far as get an accountant, make sure you're reporting and all that's up to snuff, it just makes it easier to run the business, I guess, in that particular case.
It does.
So is there anything that you're really excited about coming down the pike that you want to share with people?
Well, I am very excited about kind of our new venture that we have. So
tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So this is our family's kind of real estate investment company. And we've looked at these little beach motels and inns, and right in my area, maybe not so much in some other areas, but in my area, they kind of dotted the coast, and there are quite a few of them. But a lot of times these things have been left for dead. I mean, they've been owned and operated by mom and pop. A lot of times mom and pop really didn't have the capital to keep these properties up, so a lot of them just were kind of fell into a lot of disrepair. So
you just do for a paycheck, even just here's my paycheck.
That was it. Yeah. That was how they got paid. And we had our first opportunity on Topsail in 2018. One came up for sale, had a partner, and we said, you know what, this could be pretty interesting, because Topsail Island, for example, it's pretty much 90% vacation homes, right? Very, very few hotel rooms. And if they are, they're like this one. They're old, dilapidated mom and pops.
Right.
So we said, well, what if we updated one, plugged it into our vacation rental portfolio, It's non-competitive with the homes, right? Because it's a completely different product.
Exactly. They're rooms.
And we could do 1, 2, 3 night stays as opposed to the traditional weekly stays. And then maybe we could, just cross market with guests and go out. So that's what we did.
Come a few days early, stay a few days late. That
exactly.
marketing.
Yep.
I love
come
that.
down. Yep. Come down or invite them back in the fall for a long weekend or what have you. And so we did that, and we embarked on about a year plus renovation project that we did not plan on. And completely redid the entire property, but it turned out to be fantastic and got my wheels turning. During COVID, I actually identified a couple more. And I didn't do this while we were closed. Obviously, I was just trying to survive at that point. But when we opened back up, we said, all right, well, we're going to roll the dice, put these under contract. And we were able to acquire the Beach House Motel, which is on Oak Island, which is another North Carolina coastal community. And then the Tranquil House Inn, which is in Manio on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It's more of a traditional inn. In fact, we have a restaurant. I own a restaurant now. How about that? So we have a restaurant there. And so we started putting our kind of vision on these properties, plugging them into our systems. And it's been awesome. I mean, it's been awesome to see them and to see people enjoy it. And frankly, controlling the product 100% has been, it's just been very rewarding for us because, now the only person I have to answer to is myself. If I mess up, it's on me, and that's okay. So,
I love those properties. The reason I like them so much is because they have so much character. They're all different. I love staying in them. They have some, there are some in the Outer Banks, like you just talked about in Manio too. I've stayed in Manio. I don't know if that's where I stayed or not, but I stayed in one that had a restaurant. It's been years and years ago. And I just think that they have enormous character, especially for these short vacations that we know that people are taking now.
Enormous character, and we're complete opportunists on this one. We're not going to go set out and go, okay, we're going to buy 3 more this year. No, it's got to hit like every single check mark. So, traditionally vacation rental heavy markets, low volume of hotel rooms, and kind of good locations and kind of funky, right? Because then we can kind of go in and put our stamp on it. You can't recreate location. Most of these areas, you can't build hotels now because of height restrictions and available land. So, if we do that and we identify enough that kind of makes sense and we're able to, deploy capital, smart, I feel like it's a great, great long-term legacy business for us. And that's what we're going to be focusing on probably for the next, hopefully forever. So
are you interested in places where you would build one yourself, or are you interested in just renovations?
Yeah, right now we're not interested in new construction. I think it's a whole other ball of wax. I think we'd be more interested in renovations, which is tough, but I think new construction's kind of a whole other ball of wax, right now. So yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, I am really grateful for your time, Mike. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I know that people will be excited to hear your story. Maybe we can do something in the future where we sit down and talk about homeowners and what people should know about homeowners, because I think that's it's our core part of our business. Without them, we don't have a business, right?
They are, and that's always kind of bothered me a little bit. That's our client, right? And so we need to make sure that we gear our services towards that homeowner first, and then the guest second. And sometimes I think our wires get crossed there when we start, having our fun meetings at association events.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on selling to V-Trip. V-Trip, that's a great company. And I think Steve has done a miraculous job in building what he's built. It's outrageously successful too.
Yeah, so. We got some great sister companies now. I kind of told Steve, I said, if you're kind of building an all-star collection of companies, in our space. And, I'd love to see that continue, and I'll help in any way that I can. So
good for you. Well, thank you again. And I really appreciate you being a part of this.
Thank you so much for having me. Been fun.
This episode of How We Grow was brought to you by Streamline. To find out more about how Streamline can help grow your vacation rental business, visit streamlinevrs.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.